And next up, we've got Annie from Norfolk Southern for a very exciting presentation on a topic that's been very important to this year's conversation, the transition around, work from home, work from anywhere. So to start off with, Annie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Nick. Thanks for including us in the conversation.
Excellent. So I guess to start off with, before we get into the meat and bones of the questions today, can you please introduce yourself and Norfolk Southern to the audience?
Sure. I'm Annie Adams. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Transformation Officer at Norfolk Southern, which is a freight railroad that operates in 22 states, mostly east of the Mississippi. I find that my title often needs a bit of explanation as the Chief Transformation Officer. So to put that in context, I have responsibility for our human resources, labor relations, technology, corporate communications, and sustainability functions.
Excellent. Perfect. So obviously, I think given your expertise, this is a perfect topic for you today. I guess to start off at ground zero, so to speak, can you talk about, pre-COVID-19, what the kind of working dynamic was at Norfolk Southern and how you guys transitioned to the work from home environment?
Certainly. And, I'll start by just saying that even before the pandemic, we were operating in a world of unprecedented change. It comes as no surprise to this audience with the rise of e-commerce, the disruption to supply chains. There's increasing pressure on us as a company to perform and to compete. We've had to find ways to be more nimble, to innovate faster, and to get better at what we do. And communication and collaboration have been a key to the transformation that's underway at Norfolk Southern. This pandemic, including the shift to remote work, has been the ultimate test of our agility. At Norfolk Southern, safety is a responsibility that we take really seriously. So a central tenet of our response to the pandemic has been our focus on employees' health and safety. And like so many of the companies participating in this conference, we have a company full of essential workers. And to your point, what does that look like? While many of them work in our field locations or mechanical shops, a significant number of them are office-based. And we all know that that environment presents unique challenges in a pandemic. So one of the first steps we took was to equip everyone who could work remotely to do so. We were able to shift the vast majority of our office-based workforce to remote work virtually overnight. However, we've got employees such as our train dispatchers who use specialized technology that requires them to continue to report to work on site. By having everyone else in the office work remotely, we're able to spread out these employees throughout our building and thereby create a safer environment for them too. Pre-pandemic, we had a relatively small number of departments that were piloting telework programs, and we had plans to roll out a corporate telework policy. But with the pandemic, we immediately moved to full-scale implementation. And I've said over and over again, we were able to accomplish in 2 weeks what I thought it would take 2 years to achieve in terms of the breadth and buy-in for telework.
Excellent. So obviously something that is really important when it comes to this conversation is productivity. And I guess obviously trust as well, given that, folks are going to be working from home or working from home. So can you talk to, I guess, the trust element and, if at all, any productivity changes that you've seen as we've transitioned away from the office-centric, working life?
Sure. Well, Nick, a hallmark of the Norfolk Southern culture is our employees' can-do spirit. If anything, when we transitioned to remote work, our employees were working harder than ever. Norfolk Southern plays an essential role in the U.S. economy, and our employees were determined to deliver for our customers and our communities. A great example that everyone listening today can really appreciate is our customer service function. It wasn't one of those groups, frankly, that we had slated for teleworking pre-pandemic. But they were issued laptops and soft phones, and they quickly transitioned to working from home. And that transition went so smoothly that the customers that they were communicating with on a daily basis never realized that transition took place and that those folks were working remotely. Productivity remains high, and our leaders are really focused on ensuring that employees stay focused on our key business objectives. I think one of the interesting, if not paradoxical, outcomes of this new way of working is that many of our leaders report that they're able to actually stay in better touch with their teams than they were pre-pandemic, largely because a lot of us are traveling less. We're hearing similar feedback from our employees. In a recent employee survey, 90% of our employees indicated that they had no issues staying in touch and aligned with their managers. And I'll tell you, that's something I can personally attest to. Our senior executive team, who used to meet together in person on a weekly basis, now we start every day with a daily senior executive team, and we are far better aligned and connected and knowledgeable about what's going on across the entire company than we were many months ago. Another good example of this is what we call our chairman's briefing. When we initially moved to remote work, we launched a virtual meeting for about the top 140 leaders in the company. And while initially that meeting was focused on COVID and our response, both in business terms and health and safety terms, it has really shifted to be much more strategic about our business. And it includes, among other things, a standing Q&A session with our CEO and our executive team. And we've got leaders who are participating on that call who've indicated that they are better informed about the company's strategy and initiatives than they've ever been. And that theme is echoed more broadly through our organization. Our quarterly employee pulse survey, our scores on communication went up 15 points in a quarter. For anybody who's familiar with employee surveys, that kind of jump, that's completely unheard of. So we've really focused on communication. It's been really deliberate, but it's paying off. And the fact that our productivity remains as high as it does has given us the ability to be extremely deliberate about our timeline for returning employees to on-site work, which we have postponed currently until January.
Excellent. So obviously you mentioned a lot of it there. Can you talk to specifically some of the tools that you've employed to ensure that projects are managed efficiently?
Yeah, this is a combination of technology and management. And so I'd like to respond by talking about a couple of things, starting with a couple of key technology tools. The first being Salesforce. So we began our Salesforce implementation in 2018 with our customer service organization. We rolled our marketing organization into the tool in 2019 and our revenue accounting group into it this year. So now we have the three main customer touch points all using the same system to collaborate on customer interactions. Here's a case where necessity fueled adoption, and Salesforce became absolutely critical with the need to share information about rapidly changing customer needs during the course of this pandemic. It's proved to be invaluable and has really pulled those teams together. A second technology tool is Microsoft Teams, much like the technology we're using today. Many of us spend much of the day collaborating through Teams, whether that's engaging in face-to-face virtual conversations or participating in online chats or collaborating on documents. Here's another case. We were in the very early stages of our Teams launch prior to the pandemic, and we, of course, accelerated that rollout. again, necessity led to adoption and use of Teams that was exponential in terms of its growth, far faster than anything we could have hoped for under normal circumstances. The third technology tool that I would want to highlight for this group is around employee communications. And, we already knew with 20,000 employees across 22 states that we needed better tools to connect and engage and inform our employees. And so we had already been looking at mobile communications app, but once again, the pandemic was the catalyst that moved us to execute very quickly. Literally, in less than 2 months from the green light it took less than 2 months to go from green light to go live. We deployed this new mobile communications platform, and it gives employees the ability to use their phone to engage with colleagues and stay informed about important company news. No time to phase it in, no time for a pilot. We went to full release to the entire employee population on day one and had 1,000 employees sign up in the first 24 hours.
Wow. So obviously an important aspect of this is the IT team, right? Can you talk to the support that the IT team has had to have in order to successfully roll out the technologies that you've mentioned?
I love to have the opportunity to talk about that. Could I share one other thought related to some of the tools that I think we made broadly available in addition to technology? And I'll circle back to the team. But we have what I would say is more of a management tool that supported all of our leaders. We called it the Pandemic Leader Guide and Toolkit. And this toolkit provides all of our leaders with the resources and guidance on ways to provide both professional support and some of that personal support that we knew our team members needed. They aren't new management techniques. They're things that, though we thought were important to reinforce given the stress, the disruption, and the change that everyone was experiencing. It's the fundamentals like focusing on inclusive leadership, on getting to know employees on a more personal level and understanding the challenges they face, setting clear expectations for work, reminding employees to unplug and to take their vacation at a time where it seemed kind of counterintuitive to take vacation. But that was the way we really equipped all of our leaders to better handle this. I'll shift now, though, to your question about the IT team, because I can't say enough good things about the way our IT team responded to this challenge. Our IT department has provided remote connectivity for decades. That's an important part of our normal operations and a part of our business continuity plans, which, of course, pre-pandemic, we thought about business continuity in terms of weather events, hurricanes, snowstorms, ice, those kinds of things. So we had a remote environment that was built for robustness, redundancy, and scale. And boy, did we put it to the test, because as I said before, we essentially flipped the switch on remote work. There was no phasing this in to see how our systems would react. In addition, our IT team started moving quickly even before we knew the full extent of this pandemic. We had a good portion of our workforce who was already working off of laptops, but many of our office-based functions were still working off of desktops. At the time, as a contingency plan, our IT team deployed something like 300 laptops in the last couple of weeks of February. And when it became apparent that we needed to get as many people out of our Atlanta offices as possible, our IT team deployed soft phone technology and implemented a solution that allowed our entire customer service team to work from home while staying fully integrated with our Salesforce system. One really cool thing is that our IT team, collaborating with others in our organization, determined a really innovative solution that enabled remote work for our employees who needed to have direct radio communications with trains. That was quite a feat. The IT team also, they stood up a virtual command center. They closely monitored our help desk for issues, and they maintained our focus on cybersecurity, particularly recognizing the potential for new threats that the shift to remote work and the disruption and the distraction of the pandemic could cause. And as I mentioned earlier, accelerated the rollout of Teams, the rollout of Forge, that employee communication app. And I'd say the common theme through all of this is the extraordinary teamwork and collaboration, not only within the department, but with business partners throughout the organization.
Excellent. So, I mean, overall, it seems from this conversation that, the transition to work from home was about as seamless as one can expect, given, the tools that you spoke about today. Given that and the backdrop of today's conversation, what is your prediction on the future of work? How do you see that in terms of remote working, office space, etc.?
Well, Nick, the future of work is something that I've thought a lot about, including pre-pandemic. As I mentioned earlier, Norfolk Southern's undergoing a pretty remarkable transformation. And a key element of that ongoing transformation involves bringing many of our teams together in a new corporate headquarters that we're currently building in Midtown Atlanta. So to me, the future of work is all about balance. We've proven that remote work can be effective, but we've also learned it's no substitute for being together for activities like collaboration, relationship building, and mentoring. When Norfolk Southern returns on-site work in our offices, we'll offer our employees the flexibility of working from home for part of the week, that corporate telework program that I talked about. So in an era where we know that some individual work can be achieved very effectively in a remote setting, it's even more important than ever that when employees come together, it's in a workplace that maximizes the benefits of personal interaction. Our new headquarters is designed to be a welcoming, healthy, and inclusive environment that encourages collaboration and innovation and will help us attract and retain top talent. In our headquarters, we'll provide employees with options, workspaces where they can do their best work, whether for any given task that requires heads down focused activity or teamwork and collaboration. So when employees have the flexibility to work from home, at their desk in the office, and through a variety of spaces throughout the building, including some really phenomenal outdoor workspaces, technology becomes increasingly important as a way to integrate both the remote and in-person conversations. We're implementing and adopting a unified communications platform that's going to provide that seamless user experience, whether you're in a conference room, you're on your computer, or even on a mobile device. So to me, balance and flexibility are an important part of our strategy to ensure our employees and our company thrive for years to come.
Excellent. I think that's a fantastic way to end. Obviously, Annie, you'll be joining us for the live Q&A in a few seconds. So looking forward to hearing more. Once again, thanks so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed your insights.
Great. Thanks, Nick. I really appreciate it.